Welcome back to the Convo Couch, everyone. Pasta Jardula here, and today a very special guest. And I know I always say special guest, but this gentleman that I met on my last trip over to Arizona to see the Max Kaiser Bitcoin conference with Stacy and whatnot, I met this gentleman who jumped on the stage. He had a newspaper in his hand, and he just started going. Later on that evening, we got a chance to talk Paisan to Paisan. Everybody in my audience knows I'm 61% Southern Italian. I always talk about that. I got my DNA back. And this gentleman's Italian too. We got to talk about a beautiful pomodoro sauce. But then when I went and looked back at all of his videos, I said to myself, how the hell did I not know about this guy? And I was so friggin' touched. Really, I was. Because it really just put a highlight on what I feel my Italianness is never like kind of looked upon. You know, there's a lot of movies made about Italian guys. You got Goodfellas, blah, 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 blah. But the passion and love for human beings is what I got to see when I started looking at Gerald's videos. And he was talking about what he did back when. And we're going to get into that right now. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to Gerald Celente. Thank you, Gerald, for coming on today.
Celente.
See, I said Clemente like Roberto Clemente. Gerald Celente.
Actually, my real last name is Celentano. They changed it when they came from Italy.
All right.
And Adriano Celentano is he was the Elvis Presley of Italy.
Ah.
Yeah.
Do you go by Jerry or is it Gerald only?
Gerald, yeah. And I
Gerald,
don't know how I got the name Gerald. That's a German name, and it's not Geraldo. But anyway.
Hey, listen, my name is Craig. And I always ask my mom, why the hell did you name me Craig? All my cousins are Giuseppe, Anthony, Paulie, Pete, and I'm Craig. My last name is Jardula, but when I looked at my ancestry, it was Giardulio, so it was changed as well.
Yeah.
So my first question for you, my friend, is who is Gerald Celente?
I'm a very blessed man. The youngest of five at the time, born in the Bronx, 1946, right after the war. America's taken off big time. I have brothers and sisters born in the 30s, grandparents born in the 1800s. And I'm born to be free at a time when things are, you know, and the family I came from. I was the littlest kid. In those days, they used to put the kids in line, the shortest first. And I was always the first one. So the bullies wanted to pick on the little kid first. I learned how to fight right away. We moved to Yonkers later on, and I was the littlest kid. I was the toughest kid. And I grew up with parents that, you know, they taught you that. You didn't go home crying. And my mother, may they all rest in peace. If a situation broke out and I didn't, you know, she'd say to me, and I didn't even know what the hell she was talking about, I hate cowards. And my father, you know, anytime I shoot my mouth off, he'd say to me in Italian, Papagallo, parrot, stop repeating what everybody else is saying and think for yourself in a disgusting way, you know, ashamed of me. And I realized before I open my mouth, I better have the facts. And, you know, you get in a fight with your father. He'd say to me, you little bastard. He said, you think I tell you what I'm telling you because I want you to be like me? I want you to become yourself. And that was the life. And it was the life of family and caring and loving. It was a whole different time. You know, we just talked about, you know, I flew out from New York to Phoenix last week, and everybody's pigged out. There's no dignity anymore. There's no respect. You look at the photographs of the 1934 wedding, the way they're dressed up. Bezos, Buffett, Gates couldn't come close to these people. And they worked what? In factories, laborers, fish stores. And it was a time when it was really the land of opportunity. You had the Robinson-Patman Act, Sherman Antitrust Act, Clayton Antitrust Act, Glass-Steagall, all these acts that prevented the bigs from owning everything. So you had neighborhoods. You had the butcher, the baker, you know. You had everybody there. Look what they did with the COVID war, locking us down. You're non-essential. You are just a little piece of shit. Walmart, now we're talking. They're essential. Target's essential. The billionaires got $8 trillion richer as everybody else gets poorer. I tell you about America being pigged out. I started flying first class in 1974. At a graduate school, I was number 2 guy running a mayoral campaign in Yonkers, New York. We're talking about a place of a city of 300,000 people. And the guy's name was Angelo Martinelli. He became the longest running mayor in Yonkers. Then I worked on district attorney campaigns. I worked on a whole state senators. They sent me up to Albany. I was the assistant to the secretary of the New York State Senate at 26 years old. I designed and instructed American politics and campaign technology and taught it at St. John's University. I became the number 2 guy running a major trade association out of Chicago and DC. I was killing environmental legislation at the height of the environmental movement back in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's why I've been on the other side. That's why I know what it looks like. Got pictures of me and Ronald Reagan. I picked him up at the Chicago Hilton 2 days before he was running against Jerry Ford in 76. Put on a brunch with our board of directors, 16 people. Stayed in touch with Mike Deaver for years after. Been with John Connolly, the guy that took the bullet in the back, sitting in front of Kennedy, me and him and his wife with a picture in front of the book depository. He wanted to meet me. I've been with princes, prime ministers, and presidents. I know what the other side looks like.
Yeah.
So going back to, I began flying first class in 1974. They used to roll a roast down the aisle and ask you if you wanted a roast or lobster thermidor. Now first class, they give you a sandwich wrapped up in paper, in plastic, with a plastic knives and forks, no silverware. You're drinking wine out of a plastic glass. Everything has declined. You look at the way people dress. Look what they look like. You know the expression "pigs can't fly"?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go to the airport.
I know.
I
know that was covered. Yeah.
This country's gone down so hard and fast. And who's dying from the COVID? Only the facts. Yeah. 2.6 pre-existing comorbidities, including type 2 diabetics and obesity. Only 42% of Americans are obese. 70% are overweight. Not a word from these little prostitutes selling fear and hysteria. Get yourself in good shape, get strong, get healthy. Not a word. Build up your immune system. No. We got a vaccination for you. That's now, according to the Israeli Health Ministry, 39% efficacy rate. So that's how I got started. And then what got me going is when I was in DC in the Iran war, the overthrow of the government.
Yeah.
And people didn't know about the Americans overthrowing Kermit Roosevelt, Theodore Roosevelt's grandson, and the CIA and the MI6 out of the UK overthrowing the democratically elected government of Mossadegh in 1953.
Yeah.
Bringing in the Shah out of southern France and bringing in the Savak that made the SS look like they were, warm-blooded people. So when this revolution broke out, I knew it was real. And Jimmy Carter came back from visiting the Shah and his wife on New Year's Eve and announces to the American people that the Shah is the island of stability in the Middle East. As we used to say in the Bronx, bullshit has its own sound. I knew this thing was going down. Millions of people are taken to the streets day after day. So I started playing gold and oil futures. And I turned a $5,000 bet almost into $750,000. And I started growing up. I was like, 30 years old, 32 years old. And that's when I left. And that's when I started the Trends Research Institute, understanding that current events form future trends. It's not what you like, what you want, what you wish for, it's what is. And you have to make connections between different fields. So if you're looking at economics, what's going on geopolitically, environmentally, socially, a whole different. So we look at 180 different trend categories and always making connections between different fields. And my books are Trend Tracking, Trends 2000, and international best-selling, Trends 2000 and trend tracking far better than Megatrends Time magazine. And I have put out a weekly magazine. It's 162 pages this week.
Yeah.
And it's a weekly. So I just put the facts down, look at them, and see it the way it is, not the way I want it to be. And the motto is, again, think for yourself.
People ask me, I'm having my friend on, Gerald Celente. Well, hopefully I can call him a friend. We just met. But what is Gerald, and what's he all about? And I talk about, because I had the liberty and the pleasure to watch ZZ and Honey Boy twice, because I rented it for 2 days and I got to rent it twice. And, I had such a ethical connection to it, a spiritual connection, I had an aunt's house that lived, they looked like that. And then the gravy on the stove and everything. But that moment that you went through over there, it was really significant, because I'm 48 years old, right? And I remember when the planes went into the building, and I remembered the nationalism that was out there, and everybody was just out for blood. And George Bush could have invaded Russia if he wanted to at that point. What gave you the feeling, and what gave you the guts to come out there and say, no, this is wrong if we go into Afghanistan? I know they called you anti-American, but what gave you the feeling to say, wait a second? I mean, I know you've been through stuff before and you saw what happened in Iran, but also the guts to come out and say, this is wrong.
Well, the guts are from where I came from, my parents. And by the way, I had my own school. I taught close combat for many years. So I'm a true fighter. And, but the guts from if you don't know who your mother's a drug addict and your father's you don't know who your father is, you think you got a chance in life. We're blessed, from where we come from. But I've been writing a magazine for since 1991. Been trend forecasting since 1980.
Yeah.
America, they used to say in the Bronx, payback's a bitch. People forget. Look it up. Madeleine Albright. And by the way, I was on the QE2 with her. I was a keynote speaker for the top marketing people in the world, and she was one of the speakers. And it was like watching the Queen of Tarts, this big chooch dressed with an arrogant attitude. The introducer, 15 minutes. Grew up in Czechoslovakia. Her father was this, her mother was that, blah, 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 blah. Arrogant people. On Leslie Stahl, 60 Minutes. Anybody could Google it up. Leslie Stahl asks if Bill Clinton put sanctions on Iraq in the 1990s. 500,000 children under the age of 5 dead. Dead. And Leslie Stahl asks Madeleine Albright, is the price worth it? She said, yes, it is.
Yeah.
Every time that little scumbag, shit nothing little boy, arrogant little piece of crap, Clinton, every time he got caught with his pants down, he's bombing the hell out of Iraq. Then there's the Kosovo War. And then it's America's attitude toward Palestine. And you're not allowed to say that you're an anti-Semite. Screw off. Don't want to hear your crap. I call it like it is. I know, yeah. And without going into the details, it was building. And one of my top trends in the 90s was Crusades 2000. This is another Crusades of the West. USA Today, when it was a big newspaper, runs the headline. You saw it in the 2001 won't be our year. Trendseer says, I warned that a wave of anti-Americanism was sweeping the globe.
Yeah.
As we used to say again in the Bronx, payback's a bitch. You can't go killing other people and not expect them to get even with you. Look what's going on in Afghanistan. Oh, if you were an Afghani and somebody came in and invaded you, you want to kill the invaders? No, you'd be a militant. So going back, I've been reading about this. The Taliban had long wanted to deal with Bush. He refused to. We have no time to talk. I wrote about it as it was going on. Why I'm so concerned now is that when all else fails, they take you to war. Bush's popularity rating was going into the toilet before Afghanistan. The dot-com bust happened in March of 2000. We forecasted in the Trends Journal in October 1999 that the dot-com bust would happen by the second quarter of 2000. We were in a recession when 9/11 happened. And then his popularity boomed. You're either with us or with the terrorists. You know, fuck off.
Yeah, I know.
Don't you talk to me like that. Who the hell are you? I'll tell you who I am. I'm some little piece of shit named George W. Bush, a daddy's boy. I'd be shoveling crap if my daddy was in Georgie Bush and my granddaddy was in Prescott Bush. And now I got an attitude. I'm born on third base and I thought I had a home run. How can anybody be so damn stupid to listen to that little piece of shit? And that's where I was at. And that's where I'm at now. How can anybody take orders from these little jerky clowns that are in charge of our lives? Here's something for you. They might throw you off for this. There's a thing called the Declaration of Independence. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Happiness? No. Happiness isn't allowed, and you have no liberty. I'll tell you, I'm in charge. Here's a mandate for you. I'm in charge. Look at the slimeball senators and congressmen that gave him the power to go into Iraq and Afghanistan in violation of the Constitution.
Yeah.
In violation of the Constitution.
Yeah.
Shove the Constitution, shove the Bill of Rights. That's the new America. Look at these little pieces of shit all over the country. Mayors, senators, governors, telling you what to do. Who the fuck are you? How about you're a public servant? How about reading the Declaration of Independence? That we are the people that they are responsible to. It's been the other way around. Yeah. Honorable, that's a curse word. Dignitary, that's a curse. I'm just a piece of shit. Oh, he's a dignitary. Oh, your honor. How about my honor?
Yeah.
That's my America, and that's the America I grew up as a kid. And that's the America that's gone. It's gone. No fight.
No, I know. And in a lot of ways, sometimes I'm really critical of the people. I had Cynthia McKinney on the other day and I asked her, I said, do you still have faith in the people? And she said, that's a good question because she sees what's going on and the people are pitted against each other. And they've been so consumed with trying to pay bills. And then all of a sudden the programming of the TVs got them like zombies in La La Land. And I also want to point out really quick, Gerald, to our audience, what you went through. You were booted from the USA Today. You were booted from all the networks when you came out, when 90% of the people were saying, let's go into Afghanistan. You said no.
You were going to lose.
Yeah. You said
if Alexander the Great couldn't pull it off, if the British at the height of the British Empire couldn't pull it off, into the Valley of Death rode the 600. If the Russians couldn't pull it off, what makes you think we're going to win? And I used to be on Oprah. I was on Oprah twice. I used to be on Good Morning America. I used to be on Today's Show, Katie Couric, Lauer, all of them. One O'Reilly, you name it, I was on them. I used to be on CNN like 3 times a month. I used to be on USA Today when it was a big newspaper. It was almost embarrassing for me. I was on, they quoted me so frequently. Totally blackballed. Totally blackballed.
Do you feel vindicated today, though?
It's not any question of vindication. I can give a fuck what anybody thinks of me.
Yeah.
That's another stupid thing. When these prostitutes and other people, what will the president's legacy be? Your legacy? You mean after you're dead, you give a shit what people think about you?
Yeah.
A legacy? You care what your legacy is? I could care what people think about me now. It's only what I think about myself when I do it. And I want to make this clear. I told you, I used to kill environmental legislation. I mean, the shit that I pulled in my life. You know, I grew up. You grow up, you learn.
Yeah.
That's the other thing my father used to say. We'd be eating dinner. And he'd say to me, you know, son, they say that youth is wasted on the young. He'd be looking at me, take a couple more bites. And then he'd say, they were talking about you. Yeah, you learn. You learn. Now, look, I study all the time. I'm studying. You see the magazines like nothing else.
Yeah, yeah. It's a lot of homework. Well, how do you feel about Julian Assange? Because
Terrible
I mean,
what they did to him.
What's that?
Terrible. Terrible what they did to Snowden. Terrible what they did to Manning. Terrible. Terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible. How come George Bush and everybody that voted for this haven't been brought up on war crime tribunals for lying us into these wars, and particularly the Iraq War? How come? The whole system's corrupt. It's taken over by the banksters. And if you don't believe me, there was this guy, they say, Jesus Christ. He drives the money changers, the JP Morgan Chase, the Goldman Sachs, Citigroup. He drives them out of the money changers out of the temple, makes his own whip, became violent. Has a Last Supper, then he's on the cross, man.
Yeah.
Number two, the military-industrial complex. And you don't have to believe me. Ask Dwight D. Eisenhower, five-star general, Supreme Commander of the Allied Forces, two-term American president. Farewell address, January 17th, 1961, warning the American people that the military-industrial complex is robbing the nation of the genius of the scientists, weather of the laborers, and future of the children. Here we are. Haven't won a war since World War II. Yeah. And it was Eisenhower that ended the Korean War.
Yeah.
Number three, the drug dealers that morons and imbeciles call Big Pharma.
Yeah.
Here, FDA just said it was okay to get that Pfizer shot, right?
Yeah.
Who was the head of the FDA under the Trump administration?
The guy who's on the Pfizer board now, right?
You got it. Scott Gottlieb.
Yes, Gottlieb.
Piece of crap. How can anybody be so damn stupid not to see this?
I know.
As George Carlin said, it's one big club and you ain't in it. And number four, we got the little crap little boys, big tech, telling us what we can say and what we can't say. Could you imagine a little piece of shit like a Zuckerberg or a Cook or that Pitzer, that other guy,
Dorsey,
calling a man out face to face?
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
They're nobodies. We have nobodies destroying us, just like they heiled Hitler, marched off to Mussolini, and saluted Stalin.
Yeah. You know, in Eisenhower's speech, he also talked about the technocrats that were going to come to as well in that farewell speech.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. If you watch the whole speech, he talks about the technocrats coming too as well. Gerald, I know you got to get out of here soon, but I got to ask you. I watched a lot of old videos. You talked about gold and silver. You were always pushing, get gold, buy silver. I saw some videos of you not too long ago, maybe early April, where you were, about Bitcoin. But here you showed up at the Max Kaiser event, and you didn't really necessarily talk about Bitcoin. But when you do talk about these things, we always talk about they're going to eliminate the competition. The banks aren't going to let this fucking happen. What are your feelings about Bitcoin today?
They're basically, I believe that there's a place for it. And again, as I said, we said when it went over 10,000 last year that it would boom. What was it this year? Last June. Not this June, but the one when it went from 10,000 and spiked up to over 60,000. And there's still a place for it. The only thing that we see stopping it, we said this in the beginning, is when all the currencies go digital, because that's what they're going to do. They're going to do away with paper money. Gone. They're doing it in China. They're not going to want any competition. And that's down the road. And will they be able to stop it? A guy like Mike Kaiser doesn't think so. And I would suggest that he knows more about Bitcoin than I do. And so I believe there's a place for it. But gold and silver to me, and again, he's on a different page, I believe it's not going to go away because central banks are going to keep buying it. And you need silver in everything that's high tech. And there's no stockpiles of silver. Once you throw your phone out or whatever, your keyboard, it's gone. So they're going to, and now everything going more solar, more silver, more solar, more silver, more solar, more silver. And I know there's going to be a market crash and a depression, the likes of which we've never seen.
How soon is that around the corner?
It's hard to tell because they keep rigging the game. Yeah, I thought things would have crashed in.
Yeah,
I thought things were going to crash in 2012. They didn't teach me about quantitative easing and zero and negative interest rate policy in graduate school or economics 101. They're making crap up. Yeah. But I think it's gone because they can't raise interest rates. They can't because of the level of debt that they'll have to pay to when interest rates go. We have $30 trillion debt now in the United States.
Yeah.
So interest rates go up, your debt level goes up. And when interest rates go up, all this gambling in the equity markets is going to stop. That housing boom is going to bust. It's only going because of the cheap money. And that's why Bitcoin and these other currencies are going up, because the people that are buying them know that the money isn't worth anything. So I think there's a place for it.
Well, what do we do as humans to take back not just our country, our world? I mean, like you said, we're controlled by little weaselly, petty little psychopaths that are ruining not just this country, they're ruining the world. They're bombing the hell out of it. They're just every bit of water, they're destroying it. They're destroying our fucking oceans. What do we do, Gerald?
We have to unite. I was talking to George Gammon when I was out there about the same thing. And we have to unite. We have to unite under one umbrella. And it does not take a majority to prevail, but rather an irate, tireless minority, keen on setting brush fires of freedom in the minds of men, said Samuel Adams, one of the signatories of the Declaration of Independence. When the Revolutionary War started in America, less than 5% of the people supported it. At the height, under 50%. When you call out these guys, and I've been there, again, I was assistant to the Secretary of the New York State Senate at 26. They're not men. You call these guys out man to man, as we'd say again in the Bronx, they wouldn't know whether to piss or shit. They fold like that. Don't you give me your crap. I had enough of your crap. Oh, don't talk to me like that. Yo, fuck you. That's not a curse word, by the way. That's what they teach you like in the 3rd grade and all these gutless little people. When somebody pushes you and you had enough of their crap and enough of your fucking shit, that's not a curse word. Calling some little scumbag a prime minister, a president, an honorable, a dignitary, an official piece of shit. What official? Those are curse words.